Riot dropped a giant B patch last week that changed up the meta, and in this video, I'll cover my strategy and tier list for climbing on this patch for both solo ranked and double up. Then I'll cover how to play all the comps mentioned. And if you want an in-depth rundown of the B patch, I'll link my patch rundown in the description as well. Let's first take a look at my tier list for solo ranked. There are some changes from the last tier list. Varus Reroll is an S tier due to it being the best top 4 comp in the game, and it will often let you get seconds and thirds as well. Xayah somehow survived another set of nerfs and still remains in S tier. This comp is less consistent now as you're more reliant on Talon, but if you hit Xayah and Talon 2-star, you are golden. Jades are S tier for the first time. The only thing holding this comp back from being OP is that you are very reliant on Anivia 3-star to win games, as the 2-star doesn't provide enough damage late game. In A tier, we have Bruiser Sy'Fen. This comp came out as one of the biggest winners from the B patch. However, without Pyke, it's a comp you won't get much higher than a top 4 with, which is what holds it back from being S tier. Corki is a comp that is a little too inconsistent to be S tier. It is very reliant on a 2-star itis with 3 tank items to do well, and it's somewhat reliant on a good shimmer scale item if you want to win games. These two combinations holds it back from being S tier. Olaf has ended up in a weird spot. He's not really good at all without Assassin's Bat, but with Assassin's Bat he is really strong, and that's what holds this comp back from being S tier, as it's very hard to have a good opener for Olaf and also to get an Assassin emblem within the same game. In B tier, we have Guild Ryze. This comp is not very consistent as you will almost always bot 4 unless you hit 3-star Ryze, and you also need good augments to play it. But if you hit 3-star Ryze with good augments, you can win a lot of games. In other words, this comp is just way too inconsistent to be any higher than B tier. Mirage Daeja is very similar to Jade Anivia, only that it's overall weaker. You have a 3-cost carry with Nunu and a dragon carry with Daeja. You need 2-star Daeja to top 4 and 3-star Nunu to win games. The asterisk is there because the comp is only worth playing if the Mirage synergy is Executioner, Duelist, or Spellsword. Karma Reroll is a comp that is very augment dependent. If you get good augments like Blue Battery or Oxium Arc, then the comp is S tier, but without those, it's not consistent enough to be any higher than B tier. Nidalee Reroll is surprisingly strong, but it falls off hard during stage 4 and 5. If you don't get 6 shapeshifters in with Shyvana late game, it will be very hard to top 4, but if you do hit that, you're in a great spot. Much like the other comps in B tier, it's too inconsistent to be any higher. Sin Reroll fell a little after the B patch since the early game of the comp got nerfed, but once you hit 6 Dragonmancers with 2-star Lee Sin, you're still in a great spot to win or top 4. The only issue is that now you generally have less time to hit than on the previous patches, which is why it got moved down to B tier. CavaLegends is a new variant of the Volibear Legend comp. You use 3 Cavaliers to give a bunch of defensive stats to your legends, making them crazy tanky, and I'll cover how to play this comp in the comp overview at the end. Looking at the double up tier list, it is very similar, but the A and B tier is almost completely flipped. Additionally, I would add that the gap between S, A, and B tier is smaller in double up, as a lot of the less consistent comps are more consistent due to there being 2 players rolling for the same 3-cost units instead of just 1. The cap of a lot of team comps are also higher in this mode as opposed to solo ranked, as you generally hit everything way faster. Therefore, comps that are more tempo oriented like Karma and Nidalee are moved down to C tier. Jade Anivia is overall the strongest comp here, since it's a lot easier to hit Anivia 3-star. Corki is a lot stronger since you hit 2-star itis a lot faster, which is the backbone of the comp. With Olaf, it's easier to hit Assassin Emblem with 2 players are chasing the spatula as opposed to just 1 player. Bruiser Sy'Fen and Varus get more outscaled, which holds them back from being S tier. If there is a comp I did not mention here in any of the tier lists, it's because the comp is C tier or lower. Now moving on to my strategy for climbing on this patch, and let's first cover solo ranked. There are 2 main paths you can take, reroll or play for a fast 8 to use 4-cost carries or dragon carries. I feel like a broken record, but we have yet another patch where some 3-cost 3-star options are meta. If we look a little closer, we can see that Varus, Xayah, Sy'Fen, and Corki want very similar items. Varus, Xayah, and Sy'Fen has Rageblade as a core item, and Corki can use it as his 3rd item. Deathblade is a great item for both Corki and Varus, Giant Slayer is a core item for Xayah and great on Varus and Corki, and QSS is a great item for both Xayah and Sy'Fen. Because of this, I like to flex around those 4 comps, and I'm defaulting towards Corki or Varus, which when I pick depends on which items I get dropped from stage 1. For Varus, I also prefer to go on an 8 loss streak and then all in after the carousel on stage 3-5. In the early game for that comp, I also look to pick up Bruisers and Astrals. For Corki, I aim towards this board, where I run Senna as the item carrier, but with that comp, I definitely don't default towards the loss streak, as you can't actually win streak with Cannoneers, and you can't really loss streak into level 8 with that comp, as it would be way too low on HP when you get there. In the early game, I also look to slam Rageblade very often. due to the incredible flexibility this item has. I'm also fine with slamming other AD items like Deathblade and Giant Slayer. If I get more AP items, I will look to play Jades with Anivia, unless I get great augments for mages. The best part about Jades is that you can also throw your AD items on Shi Oh Yu, so if you already slammed a Deathblade, but then get AP items, it's still a great pivot. The meta is overall relatively balanced, so if you get an early Volibear and Lee Sin, I will play those comps if I have the right items, as you can definitely still top 4 and win if you play those one ahead. The strategy in Double Up is very similar, as the tier list is also similar, but I always coordinate with my partner before any of us commit to a comp. If any of us gets Earth's Grab Bag or Assassin Crest offered on stage 2-1, we always try to have one player force Assassin Olaf. And in the case where one player is playing a 3-cost reroll comp, we also try to see if the other person has a good opener for a different 3-cost reroll comp. This is because when 2 players are slow rolling at level 7, it's easier to hit the main carry faster as both players are slow rolling for the same carries. However, when one of us is playing a 3-cost reroll comp, the other person does not hard force a different one. You still want to play a comp based on your opener and items like in solo ranked. Another thing to note is that since you hit faster, the cap of comps are higher in Double Up, so your board needs to be stronger than in solo ranked on average. This also means that you'll be looking for 3-star 4-costs whenever you're playing those comps as well, and you generally need to have multiple 3-cost 3-stars unless you hit them fast enough so you can go level 9 to add in legendaries. Additionally, it's important to check out what the other people are chasing, and then look to hold those units on your bench to deny the 3-stars, as them hitting 4-cost 3-stars can be what makes you lose the game a lot of the time. I'll talk way more about all of this in my Double Up guide that's coming later this week, and give me feedback on the Double Up parts of the tier list video, as it's the first time I've made a dedicated segment to it. Now let's talk about all the comps mentioned. I've already made in-depth guides on a lot of these, and more are on the way, so if you want to learn more about any of these comps, make sure to subscribe to the channel. First up is Varus. This comp wants to slow roll at level 7 for 3-star Varus and 3-star Illaoi. Once you hit both of them 3-star, you can drop Skarner for Silas as he's a bit better. Don't be afraid to roll down earlier than usual, as you'll hit way faster with the Astral synergy. Items for Varus are Rageblade, then pick 2 of Deathblade, Hurricane, Hodge, or Giant Slayer. In most lobbies you won't need Hodge, and if you get a healing augment, it's usually enough to drop the Hodge. He is also very item dependent, and does not feel like a carry unless he has 2 of them, so going for a lost streak until you have items is what I usually do with this comp. Illaoi wants standard tank items like Stoneplate, Redemption, Warmox, Dragonclaw, or Bramble, and the best augments are anything to buff up the swift shots, healing augments, or econ augments like Cosmic Gifts. Next up is Guild Talon Xayah. With this comp, we want to fast 8 as we're running 4 4-cost units. You will lean more into Xayah or Talon depending on your items and augments, but the majority of the time you will prioritize Xayah. She wants Rageblade, QSS, and Giant Slayer. Giant Slayer on Xayah is important to get through tanks, and Talon will deal with the backline carries. You can also drop QSS for another damage item like Deathblade or IE. Talon wants IE to make his spell crit, and a healing item, and then lastly Frozen Heart. But you need to drop Frozen Heart for a damage item if he is your main carry. Next up is Jade Anivia. Some people would say Shi Oh Yu is the main carry for this comp, so in other words, you're running 2 carries here. You want to get to level 8 to hit 9 Jade, and from there, you reroll for 3-star Anivia and 2-star Shi Oh Yu. Items for Anivia are Sojin or Rageblade to get mana, then Archangels or Giant Slayer are great as your 2 damage items, but other AP item combos can also work. Shi Oh Yu wants pretty unusual items. Titans is great on him as he gets to 25 stacks pretty quickly, BT is great for him to heal up, and Edge of Night is great to make him get more attack speed. Other AD items like Giant Slayer, IE, and Hurricane also works. Throw your tank items on Nico, and any augments that buff up Jades or Anivia are great in this comp. Next one up is Bruiser Sy'Fen. The great part about this comp is that you can roll up both levels 7 and 8 depending on how healthy and rich you are. You want to go for Rageblade, QSS, and BT, although you can replace QSS or Rageblade with Titans or Giant Slayer if needed. Throw your tank items on Auron and throw your extra carry items on Pike. Stay on 6 Bruisers until you hit Pike, then go into 6 Whispers. The best augments are anything that buffs up the Whispers or Bruisers. Big Friend is great to take less damage, and any augments that scale with high HP like Second Wind or Titanic Strength are also great. Next up is Corki. You want to fast it with this comp to hit 2-star Idas, as that is the backbone of this comp. I would almost argue it's more important than hitting 2-star Corki. Items on Corki are Last Whisper and Giant Slayer, and then the third item is a healing or another damage item. Corki is the main carry, so we prioritize making items for him first, and then throw any tank items on Idas, although Stoneplate is the best one. The best augments are anything to do with Cannoneers or Rebels, and +1 Guardian is great for the shield on Idas. Next one up is Olaf. With this comp, you want to slow roll at level 7 for 3-star Olaf and Diana. You can also chase 3-star Shen if possible. If you do not get Assassin's Bat, this comp is not great. In that case, lean more into Diana carry and use Olaf as the secondary carry. You want to try and Lost Drake in the early game to both stack up Olaf and to be the first pick on carousels, as sometimes they have spatulas on them. You want RFC and I on Olaf to always crit, and to have more attack speed on him. The biggest weakness is not having healing, so if you get any healing augments offered, make sure to take those. BT and Hodge can also replace RFC if you get attack speed augments like Best Friends or items like Seek's Herald. Next up is Ryze. This comp is similar to Olaf in terms of playstyle, as you will slow roll at level 7 for 3-star Ryze and Sylas, although Ryze is definitely more important than Sylas. Items for Ryze is one mana item, which wants to be Sojin, the second item wants to be a damage item, which is Archangel's Deathcap or JG, and the last item wants to be Gunblade to heal himself up from the splash damage, and to heal up the Sylas as well. As for augments, anything to do with guild or mages is great. Jewel Lotus is insane in AP comps, and healing augments are also great as you can drop Gunblade for another damage item in that case. Next up is Daeja. With this comp, you want to ideally fast 8, as you want a lot of forecasts and a legendary with Yasuo. Like I said earlier, only play this comp if you have Dexterity, Spellsword, or Executioner as the Mirage trait. Items for Daeja is either Rageblade or RFC for attack speed, Giant Slayer to get through tanks, and the last damage item depends on the trait. JG is best for Spellsword and Dexterity, but if it's Executioner, then play Deathcap or Archangels on her instead. Seek's Herald is great in this comp to further buff up Daeja, and throw tank items on Nunu or Hecarim. Late game, you can throw the rest of your items on Yasuo once you hit him as well. Any healing augments are great to give Daeja a little bit of healing, or anything to buff up the Cavaliers or Mirage is also fantastic. Next up is Karma Reroll. Like I mentioned earlier, this is S tier with good augments like Blue Battery and Axiom Arc, but without those, it's no better than B tier. You slow roll at level 5 for 3-star Karma, Taric, and Leona, then push level 8 to get 6 Dragonmancers in. You want blue buff on Karma plus 2 damage items. Crit is better as we get a lot of raw AP through the Dragonmaster trait, therefore IE and JG are the best second and third items for her, but Giant Slayer also works. If you didn't hit 3-star Leona, she can be dropped for another tank like Ornn or Neeko later. You can also go into 6 Jades instead of 6 Dragonmancers if you get good items for Shi Oh Yu. Next up is Nidalee Reroll. With this comp, you want to play 3 Astrals in the early game and then Lost Drake until stage 3-1 after Krugs. At that stage, you want to hype roll at level 4 until you hit Nidalee 3-star. From there, you want to end up with this board. You can play Shi Oh Yu over Shyvana until you hit her as well. Items for Nidalee is Rageblade and QSS, and then you go for Deathblade, Giant Slayer, or BT as the last item. Any augments that buff up Shapeshifters or healing augments are also great for this comp. Next up is Sin Reroll. With this comp, you want to slow roll at level 7 by dropping Neeko, and once you hit 3-star Sin, go to level 8 to add Neeko back in. This comp is a lot stronger if you get +1 Dragonmancer, as you can drop set and have the level 8 version at level 7. Sin wants full crit items so he can one-shot the backline, and he also wants 1 healing item. If you get Jewel Lotus, play Titans or Deathcap over JG. Swain is the secondary carry, so throw Shiv and Rageblade onto him, and then a damage item to finish him off. Lastly, we have the latest installation of the Legend comp called CavaLegends. With this comp, you play 3 Cavaliers who will get sacrificed to the Legends. They will get 100% of their HP, armor, and MR, making them crazy tanky. You use Volibear as the main carry, so you slow roll at level 7 with this board -1 Cavalier, and then play any other Dragonmancer until you hit Yasuo. Once you hit 3-star Volibear, level up to 8 and play this board. Items for Volibear are Rageblade, QSS, and BT. Throw your tank items on Ornn and throw your AP items on Anivia. You can also throw AD items on Yasuo late game. The best augments are anything to buff up the Cavaliers. Eye of the Storm is great to get more AP into Volibear, and Triforce as well is fantastic to get more stats onto him as well. Like I mentioned earlier, I will make in-depth guides on most of these, so comment and let me know which one you want me to make next. I will also link my Set 7 comp playlist in the description so you can check out the ones I've already made. All the comps mentioned in this video will be linked in an Imgur album that is available on my Discord server under the hashtag TFT resources to improve text channel, and the invite link to that server is down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what video you want me to make next, and if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 8,000 other players there who are hungry to climb, and if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.